I think everyone is in. Hello again. Good evening or good morning, wherever you are. This is Maciej from XTRF. Thank you for thank you for accepting our invitation to this webinar. We'll spend up to 1 hour today talking about the XTRF Vendor Portal. So I think we'll start with this piece of advertising you probably saw and that brought you here. We're actually going to follow the agenda as advertised, I could say so. We're going to talk about the benefits of using XTRF Vendor Portal in your daily work. We're going to I'm going to try to to prove how big an advantage it is and what daily routine jobs it can take for you, and I'm going to talk about its flexibility. We're very proud to offer a tool that is very adjustable and very flexible, and I hope you're going to see that clearly. I hope to speak about 40 to 45 minutes, and then I'm ready to take your questions. In the GoToWebinar panel, you have the ability to ask questions. I will take a moment after I present everything I got for you today. I'll take a minute or several seconds to read out the questions, and I'm going to do my best to answer those. What I'm not going to speak today, we're not going to talk about the general system features, so that's on a different occasion. So I'm going to focus on the XTRF Vendor Portal. I'm not going to touch much about the financial part, the business part of that, so that's not me answering. I'm a deployment specialist, so I'm going to talk about the wonderful tool we have to offer, but not the offer itself. So, but no worries, your questions will be answered in due time. And that's basically it for the agenda. So, you know what? Let me start. Let me switch screens real quickly. Let me bring XTRF. So just a few words, just a few introductory words to those of you who don't know much about XTRF. Of course, we offer a complete translation management system or platform. There are different expressions for that. It's a complete package for a translation, a studio translation business for managing your daily work. Let me just log in. Logging in means it's somewhere there. It's up there in cloud. It's online. I need to get in with my own password. And this is the main interface of XTRF. This is the part for project managers. I'm going to tell you a few things about it, and then I'm going to focus on the vendor portal mostly. I'm going to bring up an example project that I prepared earlier to show you a few key features. I think this one will do. So what you see here is an example of a project in XTRF. So this is the layout, the one-page layout of Smart Project. And if you look closely, you'll recognize basic details of a project, like the order, the details, the languages. I haven't even chosen the languages, but that's going to change in just a moment. Then the list of jobs, the process design. So in a graphical representation of what will happen in the project, then a space for files, finance, people involved in the project, and so on. So as you see, it's a one-page design. Everything you need to know about a single project is packed into one scrollable page. But again, this is the perspective of a project manager or whoever is involved in a project in the translation agency, translation studio. But that doesn't count in the vendor. So we have that other interface for vendors. And let me just change the address and take you to another site. Actually, I'm already logged in, so that happened in no time. Let me just sign out. Okay, so there's this, even the colors are a little different, to recognize the so the different side of the business. So your vendors or whoever, whoever there is behind this, translation business, the vendors don't see this red interface that I just showed you. This is only for project management or for the management of the translation company in general. But this is the vendor side. So I will quickly log in to show you the vendor side. So I'll be spending some of the time here. I'll be coming back here. Let's go back to that project management perspective again. We'll bring up. Yes, everything is going live, so I need to find things live. Let me just go back to my project I prepared earlier. Okay, so in the first part, I wanted to explain where does the vendor fit in? Where does a vendor find their job, and where is the vendor in the entire process? So basically, if we focus on the process, on the design of the workflow, so to speak, we will see translation into proofreading, a pretty typical scenario in any translation company. First, the translator needs to handle the files, then the files are brought back and given to proofreader. No explanation required on this. And each of those steps is executed by a vendor or a provider or a linguist or any other, whatever word we used for this, specialist to translate or to proofread or to edit. These are equally understood, I hope. So a vendor is either a person or a company, or even the project manager or an in-house employee can double as a vendor. And we can assign, we can generally assign either a company or a single or a freelancer or another linguist, or even a robot if we are that advanced. We can assign a script to a step. So in these two steps, one of them is assigned, one of them is awaiting a vendor's approval. So our role as project managers within a project like this is to assign each step to someone. Of course, this is a very simple scenario. We only have two languages involved, English into Polish. So that's translation English to Polish and then proofreading in Polish. But this could be much more complex if we imagine more languages or a longer process like editing, additional QA, and so on. So we can execute longer or more complex scenarios in a project like this. But this is simplified for the purpose of the presentation. We need to. Our role as a project manager, is to assign or make sure people are assigned to those steps. Now, there are several ways in XTRF to assign linguists or other specialists to steps, to jobs. We can either, I call it pointing a finger, we can either point a finger at someone, and just pick from the list, and we know a vendor that is good for a job, so let's just assign someone to a job. But much more effective, much more actually attractive way of assigning folks to jobs is to send them job offers. And this is what happens here in the case of translation. So the status of this job says offer sent, and then 23 hours left. So we're waiting 23 more hours. In this case, it's a pretty long time, but this could be much shorter, even 1-2 minutes or, 5 to 5 hours, something like that. In this case, we're waiting almost 24 hours more for the vendor to decide. And now I will switch screen and I will show you an email that goes out automatically on such occasion to show you where the vendor has to or can decide whether they want the job or not. But before I do, let me just explain. There are several methods in XTRF to automate the choice of vendor. So we can pre-assign someone for good. If we always have a process that involves always involves a certain name, a certain specialist, we can assign such person to a step, or we can automate sending out a job offer. Let me bring up this job offer I mentioned already. And XTRF sends plenty of emails. I'm not going to cover all of them, just to let you know. each or every main event in a process, in XTRF project, triggers an email. So let's say the customer puts in an order, that triggers several emails to both sides of the business, to the client and to the project manager. Then we ask the client if they if they accept a quote of certain value, then that triggers email. So basically, communication with all sides, with vendors and clients and PMs, is based on emails. Those emails can, of course, be customized. They're fully automated or semi-automated. You have control over those to a large extent. So this is just one of the emails that goes out on its own, and it says, well, this is my imaginary translation specialist, a small LSP. We have just received a new project that suits your expertise. Here's the number. That doesn't tell you much, but it's a reference number. Please open the job description. So as you see, there's not much about the offer itself in the email. But if we follow the link will take us to Vendor Portal. This is where we start to observe what the Vendor Portal is really about. The details of the job of this job offer are seen in the Vendor Portal. So this is the first occasion a vendor will see the Vendor Portal in the life cycle of a single project. So here we have, of course, basic information. Again, the reference number, any specific instructions given to this job, to whoever takes the job, scope that is based on the word count or the volume of the project, so the vendor knows more or less, what's the time frame of the project. Then an example or the actual work file. Now, whether they receive the work file on the offer, in the offer stage, or they need to wait until the job is actually executed, that's up to you. So file sharing is pretty flexible. I'm going to get there later on. So in this case, I allowed them to see the work file, the source file. Then on the right-hand side, we see details of this particular job. We see it's a type translation, not editing, not proofreading, languages and specialization. So the topic of this basically, time frame, start date and deadline, expiry of the offer, not of the job. As you see, it counts some 24 hours from the start. So that's what I told you before. You are in control of this offer expiry date. So that's, I gave it on purpose 24 hours, but that might be much shorter. The project manager, that's myself as the project manager, and the name of the project doesn't have to be here. So if that contains some sensitive information like the client name or something like that, this can be hidden. So this is one of the flexibility elements that I'm going to talk about later on. So this first contact with Vendor Portal for the vendor is, this job offer, and in here they can either accept or reject the offer. I, or my imaginary vendor, likes this, so we're going to accept. And this is not only just a button, this will trigger further actions for the process. So if we go back for a moment to the process, we'll see first translation, awaiting approval from the translator, and then proofreading. So the moment I actually touch this, the automation will know, okay, the linguist likes the job, so why don't we start this? In this particular case, this will happen. Now, if it was a second or a third step in the queue, this would naturally not start immediately. But this one will skip very quickly from accept to one and so on. I will explain the details later on, but look what happens when I accept. Hopefully you'll be able to catch this. All right. So this job skipped from new request to one to pending. Hopefully you saw that in the middle. Now this, depending on the settings of the job, this might wait or this might be triggered immediately. So again, depending on the position of the job in the process and several other settings, this will or will not be triggered. So that's more into project design than the vendor portal itself. What's more, I said several things will happen. Firstly, if I refresh this page now, the status will change from offer sent to accepted, just like the other step. So if I just refresh the page, I will see status change, and just like I said, from offer sent to accepted. Now this job is ready to start. I'm going to trigger it now. But before I do, I would like to show you one more thing. Let me bring up a new email coming in. Just give me a sec. There actually is there are a couple of more emails going out on this occasion. So this is a return email to me as the project manager. So the moment the linguist agrees to take a job, the project manager receives an email like this one. As I said, all emails can be customized, so this is just an example. It's a heads up email. Hey, you got yourself a vendor, so you can continue. Right. The vendor selection works on the first one wins basis. So you can send it to several people. Yeah, that's worth mentioning. I just sent it to one vendor, but you could send it to several people at a time. This is a general feature of project management module in XTRF. You can prepare a filtering rule to send the job offers to multiple people, and then let them decide who's going to take the job. I mean, first one wins is usually the case. Where were we? Right, so you know what? Let's start this job. Let's see what happens. And as I start this, not only the status, not only the shiny colorful thing changes its color to start it, but also a few more important things happen. So there's another email. There's an email again to the provider, to the linguist, to the vendor. All labels are okay. Saying, hey, this job you agreed to do earlier on is now launched. It's now in progress. So why don't you go inside your vendor portal and do the job, whatever it is. So, well, if we stayed in the vendor portal long enough, of course, and if we were logged in browsing jobs, and I'll tell you what you can actually do in the vendor portal, we would notice that this job is now in progress. So we can actually execute the instructions, do the translation, return files. But in case you went away, or there's a gap between the moment you and this is actually the more natural scenario, there's a gap between the moment you accept the job and the moment it starts, then you need another heads up email, another notification to say, hey, you can now do the job. And there's another, I just showed you that email, there's another email that you can also customize to bring you back to your vendor portal. Now, there is one important notice. Let me log off the vendor portal. I'm not in the vendor portal now. I'm going to go back to my email and try to follow the link and see what happens. So this is a hello, you have a new job. And there's a link. I'm going to follow this link. And look what happened. I got to the job itself. This tells us that there is no login required to execute a single job. There is a token built in the address that we just followed that takes us directly to this job. This means that you can do the job wherever you are, on whichever platform you are, or in case of groups of vendors or larger companies, they can share the link and share cooperate on a single project. This is again a part of the flexibility package I'm going to discuss later on. So as you notice, well, you don't see much difference now because I didn't explain the interface yet, but you cannot do much more than this job just following the token. So it kind of, because I'm not logged in, I cannot see the history of my projects, the history of my assignments, do the invoices, and all the other stuff that I promised to explain later on. So in order to see the rest of the vendor portal, I would have to sign in. So this is one of the fine flexible solutions for companies. But of course, if you're concerned about people getting in jobs without logging in, it's an easy tweak, and we can replace the link to the job with the link to the vendor portal. So instead of sending a direct link, we could just tell them, hey, there's this new job. Here are some basic details to help you identify the job. But now go ahead and log into vendor portal and do the job in there. But anyway, going back to the job. Now, this particular case, it's a translation job. It's a simple translation of a single file from one language to another. So what I would do here as the vendor, I would download the source file. There's some, article on birds, actually, on white ibis, that I pretend to have translated. So normally the easiest path for the translator would be to return a translated file. Again, this is not translated, I know that. It's pretend it's translated. I did that in my Word, in any other editor, Notepad, Word, or any other CAT tool of my own, it's something that helps me, but it's not connected to XTRF as of now. But I'm just returning a file. So I got a text file, I'm returning a text file. I have the impact on saying on the category of this file. So if in case I return a translated document plus a reference file, or plus a file with my comments, or I don't know, glossary I used, I could do that. So I'm not limited to the number, to the just one file I received, one file I need to return. No, that's not like it. So I'm going to choose translated document. Of course, it's in Polish, and I could keep on going and choose other files. So I can return more files than I want to. Then I can drop in some notes for the project manager. It's all done. Pardon the. Yeah, okay. It is optional to pass notes to other vendors. So the next person in line, in this case, translator, next person in the process, if we allow them to, they will see the notes from translator. So this is, again, one of the flexibility elements of XTRF. What should I write? Sorry, just writing something to fill in this gap. Now, the only thing left is to finish the job. You know what? Since this is too good not to show you, because I wrote notes, there's another email coming in for the project manager. So the moment I put in some notes, it triggers a note for project manager. Hey, there is some new content from the vendor. So this starts to be a good communication tool. We're going to talk about this in a moment. So I'm going to finish this job, allowing to say how much time we spent on the job is optional. I'm going to talk about this. The key feature here is our goal here is to finish the job. And it's actually finished, it's done, and it's all good. As a result, several things happen. First of all, there is another email. So you see starting to be a small crowd of emails already. There's an email for the project manager to say that the translator has just finished their job. Next to it, there is an email about a similar thing, about the same job. Another heads-up email for the project manager. Hey, the translator has just uploaded some files. The moment I uploaded files, the system will wait a moment and then send an update for the project manager. So this is in case I keep working, I keep sending you files, and this will keep informing the project manager, hey, there are new files coming in, why don't you check, or why don't you start working with these? There are many options on that. And finally, there's another thing, very important thing. The next step in line, that is proofreading, can already be started. because of the automation within the project, within the process, we can start the next step. And it's actually going to look like this. So before I refresh, translation is still in progress, supposedly, but when I refresh, when I revisit the project, we're going to see the progress in the process. Now proofreading can be started. Because I uploaded files and sent notes through the vendor portal, they are passed onto the project manager, and I can find them in several places. First of all, we see a note from the translator right here, down there. Hey, it's all done. This is the quick note I sent. Then there is a translated document delivered by my Imaginary Blues Brothers translation company. And then this file is then shared with the next person in line, with Olaf, the vendor, the proofreader. Now what happens as a consequence of this starting, again, going back to my email, the proofreader can go in following their own link. So again, we're using a link to their own vendor portal. So now it's the proofreader's turn to do the proofreading. Now we see two files. One is the translated document, and as a reference, the proofreader also gets the source document, the original file for comparison. And they also have space to upload files and space to leave notes, and so on and so on. So as you see, this is repeated for every step and every vendor involved. Yeah, so again, not going into details, the file distribution, file sharing is automated, the communication is automated, and from the beginning of my project, I, as a project manager, needed to set up just the basics, the basic information, and just launch the process. From then on, it's all automated. So that's where the vendors find their place within the process. Now let's focus more on the vendor portal itself. I'm going to remember I logged off properly from signed off the vendor portal. So I'm going to sign in again and show you the full spectrum of its the full potential. So going back to the vendor portal, let me remind you, of course, every vendor has their own login. And logging to the vendor portal, they log into the very company's vendor portal. So there's absolutely no mistake, they're going to log in someone else's a portal or something like that. Actually, the vendor portal is an integral part of someone's XTRF. Even if they are supported in the cloud, one of the basic forms of distribution of XTRF. Even in cloud, the vendor portals belong to their so-called motherships, so to the home portal of the owner, so to the company. So we don't mix the vendor portals. Some systems have different models of cloud operation. In a case of XTRF, the vendor portal belongs to the home portal, so they are always stick to the mothership address. So in this case, I'm logging to our own presentation vendor portal. Now what's in? When logging in, so I promised, this actually brings us, let me just bring back my agenda to prove we're going to the second point, actually, how it can improve your daily operation with vendors. What does it do, in other words? So I already explained, hopefully you saw how it is an integral part of the process. Now let me explain what it does in its full spectrum. Go back, lots of windows to minimize, just bring back XTRF, vendor portal, okay. After logging in, the vendor can, first of all, review the jobs, see future jobs, respond to job offers, and then handle jobs after they're done by doing invoicing. That's in short. To add the last thing they can do, but that's by no means the least important, they can manage their own profiles. So these literally take off lots of load from your shoulders, from the project management or the vendor management part of the business. Let's go to the beginning. Let's see the job offers. there are no job offers. I will create one job offer in a moment. This is where we could find one of those job offers that we just responded to. You know what? To show you how quick this is, let me just go back to my home portal. Let me just send a job offer. See that it actually appears there in no time. I'm going to run quickly through this project. Again, English 2. Well, okay, why not Russian this time? Specialization, okay. We're going to set up some volume, 7,000 words. Now I'm going to send a job offer to this very vendor. I could choose more. I'm going to choose only this one. All right, offer expires. This is what I told you. This is you are in control how long it's going to take before the job offer expires, and you're notified about this. So I'm going to give them just 15 minutes. Okay, minutes. We need minutes. Okay, good. Now you see 14 minutes left, so it's less than 15 minutes. Now I receive an email to prove how fast it is. It's already here. And now when following the link, I'm back in my job offer. Now I left it pretty empty, no files, no further information, just the timeline and the job type. So this is in my job offer. So now that I have one, I can show you it's a job offer I can respond to. So everything new will be here. Jobs, the core of the vendor portal. I showed you one or two jobs in progress. So they would be, if I win this job, it would find its way here. But you saw it's from the inside. Now, a number of pending jobs. Why so many? Well, that's because it's a presentation platform. We just leave lots of jobs never started. But a pending job, what is a pending job? It's a job that I or someone have been assigned to, but hasn't started yet. So this is a job still to come. So this one is waiting. It's probably never going to start. It's very overdue, but never mind. Again, this is my presentation platform, not a real production environment. So the list of jobs to be yet initiated. And then we have a list of completed jobs, which is going to link us to take us to another module. But completed jobs is just literally completed jobs. Everything that I have done, as you see, it reaches out to back last year. We can open any finished job and see what happened inside. We can download the purchase order. We can see the past files, kind of review what the job was about. Because seeing a list is nice, but the big advantage of seeing the list is that we can invoice from the vendor portal, and we can complete our bills in here. So this is the list of completed jobs. We can filter, not invoiced, invoiced and unpaid, invoiced and paid. Let's see what has been paid. Ooh, I haven't paid my vendor yet, but there would be paid invoices. I'm going to show you the rest of the portal in a second. But most importantly, the vendor or the vendor themselves, they can invoice from this place. Invoicing has a separate module in the vendor portal. It is again built in, so it's the vendor gets the whole package. And invoicing, without going to details, is done very easy. You just need to sum up which jobs you want to invoice, so what you need to invoice based on the jobs completed. So there's no way that the vendor is going to override the list or double invoice something or change the value or something like that. It relies on the completed jobs. Again, I'm keep missing an empty. Yeah, okay, that's much better. So we can complete our invoice in here by just picking from the list. Then entering invoice details, so that's up to the vendor, choosing some details like the date of the invoice, payment method, whether it's a wire transfer or PayPal, and uploading the invoice. So they need to produce a document of a sort. They need to give us, a printout of their own billing system or something like that, and then attach it to the document. Once they do, this will end up in our home portal. We will be notified about this. And you know what? I will actually try to upload something. Just give me a second. Okay, why not? Just some bill. I found something neutral and then adding invoice, and that's it. So invoicing is done really, really easy, pretty bulletproof, and no small print or nothing too complicated. Yeah, and once this is done, once a bill is filed, once an invoice is filed, someone at your end, in your company or in the any LSP would receive an email saying there's a new invoice. You should review that and see whether you agree with that or not. I'm just going to do that much quicker. Just finding the invoice. Okay, shouldn't be difficult to find. Yeah, okay, so it's already there. The invoice would be found. So this is the list of jobs I did, the filed jobs on the invoice, and the invoice file itself is found attached. So when I actually open it, let me see what that is. Okay, that's my railway invoice. I went on a trip and I had it here. So you get the idea. You can attach it on the vendor portal side. It gets transferred immediately to the home portal and you can review it. You as the vendor project manager, whoever that is responsible for those, gets a notification. Right, so invoicing is an integral part of the vendor portal. Moving on, there's their own profile, vendor's own profile configuration module. So this is basically where the vendor can review or suggest changes to their competencies and rates. So, and I'm going to complement this with some comment in a moment. In general, every vendor registered in your portal has competencies and skills. So the languages they do, the job types they do, the specializations they do, plus the prices for those. So what you see here is the list of competencies. My vendor has pretty broad spectrum of skills. Translation, proofreading, translation and proofreading in several languages, Polish to any other, English to German, German to English. So it's a very universal vendor, as you see. Plus the rates in this case in US dollars. But I think there are several price profiles, so several different currency options on this vendor. So yeah, you can see prices in different. These are way too expensive, but anyway. Let's go back to US dollar. It's much more like it. All right. So you get the idea. We can store prices. Now, that depends heavily on the case. From company to company, you have, LSPs, MLVs, the business generally has different policies. Some companies allow suggesting rates. Some people work with flat rates. Some people never allow even seeing the rates or kind of changing the rates or influencing the rates. We've seen all scenarios. And in XTRF Vendor Portal, we allow two policies, basically. Either you can do changes, can suggest changes, or you cannot do those changes on your own, and you need to request changes. In this case, we have a notification here. Every change you made on this tab must be approved. I already filed a request, but I will cancel it and file a new request. Let's say I want to edit rates. So let's say I want to raise my rates or suggest that I from now do more languages, or I have broadened my competencies. Now this would not, of course, if we just allow that, this would have great impact on your database, on the database of any translation company, and this is potentially risky because suddenly competencies change, rates change, or cost of projects change. So we don't want that. So we can limit that to suggesting new rates. So even if I raise the rates, it's not going to have direct impact on the cost, or won't take the changes won't be saved automatically. So instead, the change request will be sent. And until this change request is reviewed, no further change will be possible. So that's this kind of safety mechanism. Let me just show you that. There's dedicated email for any vendor manager assigned, or project manager, whoever that is. Change request. Provider Blues Brothers Translation Services has new changes in their profile. Click here to review and accept or reject the changes. I already canceled the request, but there is a shortened version of what we see here. This is the changes requested. So until something is reviewed, we are not able to file any more changes. And this, since we're talking about this, this can be applied to other parts of a provider's profile, a vendor's profile. So other parts include payment details. So what should be my payment account? Whether it's a wire transfer or PayPal, the vendor will give you their details in order to enable you to pay them. So whether they can change those or not, this is up to you. Again, there are those two policies applicable. Either you allow changes or you allow requesting changes. So payment details, contact details, that is both changing the address and adding more users. Now, that would take a little too long to explain, but each vendor, as I said in the beginning, they might be a freelancer, like a single linguist, a person, or an agency, another company. And we don't actually care who you hire. You can work with agencies only, or with freelancers only, or a mix of the two types. But every vendor in XTRF can have multiple contact ports, so contact persons. So each of those, let's say, Blues Brothers Translation Company, for those of you who know Blues Brothers, again, this is my imaginary name for my imaginary company. There are 2 or 3 people working in this company, Jake and Elwood Blues, and both of them can pick up a job. So this is how Vendor Portal becomes a portal suddenly for an agency. Whoever logs in, picks up a job, will do the job. This will become kind of a distribution tool. So we can manage those users, so we can give them different user rights in the vendor portal. One person will be able to manage the entire profile of a vendor, including changing rates and competencies. Another one would just be able to pick up jobs, and we can also have a number of inactive or older contact persons for historical purposes. So that's another area where they can have impact on the data. Users, I actually said that before. So adding users, managing those users to be able to enter within this provider profile. And then information about the CAT tools. So here you can, if you allow them to work with your CAT tools, let's say with your MemoQ server, they will be able to change their password to log in, log off, and work with those CAT tool enabled jobs. Probably should have. Well, this would take a little too long, but we just going back. So I'm not to confuse you. I'm going back to the topic of jobs for a second, because I think I forgot to mention one very important thing. Any job I did within the job I showed you, I just passed files. I said there's just one source file that I need to deliver. Where's my job? There's just one to do your completed jobs. That would be somewhere. Sorry, just trying to look at this one. There was just one source file and one delivered file, but the number of files can be longer, can be bigger, the list can be longer, and in case of CAT tool integrated processes, like you integrate MemoQ or MemSource or XTM or Trados, depending on the CAT tool, on the technology, you work either on the files or you get to open the link to MemSource, XTM, or WebTrans in MemoQ, or download packages. So the methods of pickup and delivery of files can differ. That's why sometimes we need a password to MemoQ. That's why in the profile, we can store password to WebTrans and to your MemoQ, depending on the client. So that's why it's here. This imaginary vendor, Blues Brothers Translation Company, is actually a company type vendor. So it's an agency. So it's not visible here. But if this was a freelance vendor, there would be another tab for dropping resume and completing experience, education, or references tab. So there would be more space to leave a resume and complete profile. Finally, on the list of modules, there's holidays. And holidays, fairly straightforward module to note when the vendor is unavailable. I have two items here. I took some holidays in December, and then I had some meetings. I was unavailable for one day in November. Leaving holidays is it's fairly easy. Start date, end date. I will be unavailable a few days of relax. This will be visible immediately in the home portal. So there's a module to show availability of vendors, and I will be able to see that. You know what? Enough talk. Let me just show you that. I will be able, when I'm on the profile of a vendor, just bring up that vendor. Or you know what? I will just find it here on the. Okay. Right, so I filtered the list of all vendors just to show this one, and I see here, these 3 days. You can recognize what I just wrote. A few days of relax that I noted in my vendor portal. It gets transferred to the main database, so you can see that a vendor is unavailable. Perhaps you don't want to give them a job or don't want to offer them a job. So that's pretty straightforward. So, and that's all about the vendor portal content. So that's what is inside. Now, I promised you another topic, going back to my proposed agenda, what flexibility it offers. I actually talked about a few elements already. Flexibility of vendor portal. So, I already told you that you have these two policies regarding change request or just allowing change to rates, personal details, company details, payment info, other details. So this is part of the flexibility package. But to show you most of it, let me bring you back to where vendor portal is configured. So the vendor portal listens to the settings given by the management of the owner of the company that uses the whole platform. So let me go to configuration. Let me open the portals and the vendor portal. So this is where XTRF is configured. So platform by platform or instance by instance, everyone has their own. So each company has their own settings, of course. there are fully independent platforms, fully independent databases. So everyone gets to, of course, customize as they want it. So the vendor portal has its own settings, and those settings are for all vendors of your own, or the built-in the vendor portal attached to your XTRF. Right, some obvious things like giving it a name. Right now it says like presentation portal. When I log off, I will see, presentation vendor portal. So this is my supposed company name. The logo, by the way, it's also automatically replaced when I upload something on my own in the home portal. So the logo here will be replaced. The vendor portal, or we can change this to like provider portal or something like that. Recruitment. This email that I received that, hey, you have a new change request. This came into myself because I myself am the vendor manager in this company. So I can assign myself or virtually any other user of this platform. So within the users, we can assign anyone. And, email address, phone number, and that's both the person responsible for change and for recruitment. I will get there about the registration, but vendor portal, you can recruit new vendors and they can apply to work for you through the vendor portal. Recruitment settings. This is not only recruitment, but this is also these are options to when they available when someone wants to modify or request change on their profile. So let me log in again. By the way, I don't see many questions on the questions panel. I think you can start asking those. I will be reading them out in just a moment when I finish my narration, but I don't see many questions yet. So be my guest. Drop in your thoughts or your questions. Going back to my vendor portal, when I go to my profile and try to change my personal competencies or skills or any other details, let's say I want to add a new service, and there's not much to add because there are just a few elements like editing, interpreting, sworn translation. And if you look closely, this will be reflected in here. So editing, interpreting, sworn translation, proofreading, and translation have already been chosen, so they're not there. But my job types, my services that I purchase from vendors are much broader. So I also do DTP. I also do quality assurance and other jobs. So, but not everything is available for the vendor. So let's say I don't want to hire DTP specialists. I don't want people to say they do DTP. I'm not interested. I do DTP on my own. Same with quality assurance. Quality assurance is done in-house. I don't want people to state that they do quality assurance, not to mix my existing quality assurance specialists with some, freelance vendors who say they do. So you can limit the choice of jobs they can say they do. Same with areas of expertise. In other words, specialization. So these are the subject matters, the topics. You can leave only a few. Let's say you can only for a brief period you will only hire specialists in medicine. So you only leave medicine and let's say general. For them to fill in because you're not interested in hiring legal translators. Then a few other options like currencies. What currencies are available for them to choose from the payment method? Should you allow adding files on registration, on completing their profiles? Are you interested in receiving files, certificates, diplomas or not? What status should they get when they register on their own? Now, registration itself is a process that anyone with the right address, so anyone who knows your address, you can distribute the address, you can put it up on your website, or you send it by email to someone if they want to work for you. You definitely receive all those, applications and CVs every day. So, instead of typing all that in, you could just give them an address so that they can register and apply to work for you using your values, your vocabulary, your choices. You don't want to hire certain specialists, so they won't find the specialization on the list. So there's a tool, the entire tool for doing that in there. So what status do they get when they register? Should they mingle with other vendors, or should they get status something like waiting for approval or potential, not to mix those established, checked, and verified vendors with those new ones. Privacy settings, a very important feature. One of those things I mentioned was knowing the project name. Project name is something that is typically hidden from vendor. They typically should not know the details of your order you're doing, because it's confidential, because the client doesn't want to know, people to know that, and it's only shared by the client with you, but not the vendors, not the translators. So that's your choice, whether they see that or not, or maybe the in-house vendors can see that. In-house is just a flag, it's just a feature that that makes the regular freelancers from those in-house vendors different. And the vendor portal will, as I said, take in, it will welcome equally, freelancers, agencies, in-house vendors, and even yourself. You can log in as the vendor. So similarly, they can see or they cannot see the project name, the client name, and notes that are passed from translation to proofreading to editing to QA and so on and so on. So I passed some notes and that was available, but then this might be disabled for if you want that. I deliberately skipped that, but I mentioned leaving time spent in indicating how much time I spent on a job. So this is a good tool. Not for everyone, definitely not for everyone, but let's say you want to count time, how much someone spent on something, or notice the declaration of time spent on a job. So you can say that, okay, those translators or those proofreaders who are in-house translators, in-house proofreaders should be able to declare how much time they spent on translation. This would build up your cost of your project. So that's possible. And this would influence the actual cost. This might influence the actual cost of your project. So this is yet another thing that you delegate to the vendor portal, not doing it yourself, but relying on their declaration, on the vendor's on the vendor's declaration. Some vendor invoice settings, whether they're available, whether they can download this XTRF generated kind of account statement or not. That touches invoicing, and then those two policies I mentioned: request change or just make change. 4 areas separately. You can toggle whether the vendor can just modify or request changes on the services, their experience, payments, and contact details. And that's it. So looks like just a few toggles and a few switches, but it offers loads of flexibility. If you add to this the flexibility with regard to the notifications and the projects themselves, you will find tons of different options in the vendor portal. So I hope that proves how flexible it is. Again, I took as usual. Unfortunately, it took too much time talking, but all the options are have been requested by someone, and these features come from the client's needs. So we didn't just come up with those on our own. These are in response to our clients' needs. So you are using your experience, of our previous and existing clients. So All these are for the people and not just, to be empty checkboxes or toggles. You know what? Let me check if you left any questions for me and try to read them out and answer those, more importantly. I got just a single question, but it's a very nice one. Jeff is asking, how is information regarding scope drawn from XTRF into the vendor portal? That's a very good question, actually. Let me go back to any of my jobs. And let me go to my project, this one. And I got another question. Thank you for that. So scope relies on the payables. I haven't mentioned the finance much, but every project has its receivables and payables part. So what you pay, what you receive. We have quite a good margin here, quite a good balance. Payables, they are either filled in automatically or manually by project manager, and they, as you see, they have 5,500 source words, and this is the scope that we saw in the job. So if we go back, we will see, log in again. So this is it in short. So you either fill it in on your own as payables. So if I use another unit, not the word by, I don't know, pages or hours or source lines or target lines, this would show there. So these scope is coming not from the file, but from the payables that I put in. Based on that, okay, I didn't show you that. If I match this with a rate, this will create actual cost. And I didn't do that actually, so sorry for that. I actually skipped this. It's not the one. No, it's not the job. 2017. Let me go back to that. This is worth it. So bear with me. Of course, not this one. Shoot, where would that be? This one, okay. So this job, I didn't pay attention, I didn't focus on this actually. Purchase order is automatically generated in the vendor portal based on the payable. So not only is scope of 5,500 words is put in, but also this generates the purchase order. That's why you don't need to send the purchase order or generate it manually. I didn't touch this. I didn't, do anything for this to generate on its own. So we have a nice PO in the form of PDF sent along the job in the vendor portal. Hopefully this answers your question, Jeff. I got another one from Georgios. Is it possible to sign a job offer to more than one vendor and give the job finding to the first one who will accept it? Sure, it is. So it's one of the basic features of the system. If we go back to any of my job, okay, this should do it. Yeah, so far I sent it to one vendor. By the way, I sent a job offer to someone who did not respond to the job offer, and I got an email like this one. No vendor has been selected to a English to Russian translation set up earlier, and I find it here. I see status no vendor selected. So Georgios, to answer your question, this is how I would do this. Send job offers, and either I can rely on a predefined filtering rule, or I can assign my choice of vendors. So what I'm showing here is the so-called cascading job offer. So let's say there are 15 or more vendors who could do the job, and they have prices and evaluation set. I can ask XTRF to sort them by this evaluation or price criteria, and give me several cascades of people. So ask 5 people. When those 5 people don't respond in 45 minutes, ask another 5 people, and then another one. So I'm triggering a job offer sent to several people at the same time. And then I will wait 45 minutes, and then another cascade will go out, and then another one, and until I find myself a vendor. Now, of course, 5 people at the same time respond to the, 5 people at the same time receive a job offer. And here's the rule: first one wins. So the first one person to respond will get the job. There's never a risk that two people will click in the same time. It's always happening. That's foolproof. So the first person to hit accept. Okay, I will reject on this one. Okay, but there is another person who gets a similar request. This one will receive a similar request. They will accept. They will get the job. I just found myself a vendor, and this job is ready to start. And of course, I get a notification about that immediately. First vendor rejected. So here's a confirmation that someone doesn't want the job. And there's some good news following that one, but there is someone who does want the job. So that's how it works. Okay, Gorgias, I see that answered your question. Anyone else? I know it's several minutes past 5, but I think we have space for several more questions. So let me wait a few moments to see whether you have anything more for me. If not, then we're going to wrap up and conclude. All right, I'm not seeing any questions falling in. All right, you know what? So that either proves that the presentation was complete or everything is clear, so that actually is also good sign for me. All right, so if you don't have any further questions, well, we know how to find you, and you know how to find us. I hope this was informative, this was interesting to you. This video will be available soon, so for those who didn't pay so much attention, or those of you who could not join, or your colleagues, we will have a recording ready in a few days. So watch for more emails from us. I hope you have a great day and the rest of the week. And I hope to meet you or to hear questions from you during our future webinars. There's plenty to come. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day, and bye-bye.